cold, so if I start shivering up here, sorry. Hello everybody, thanks for coming out today. My name is Brooke and I've been married to my husband Ryan for almost 13 years. We live in Iowa City and have 2 kids, Asher who is 9 and Everly who is 7. This past March, Ryan became a 4-year survivor of pancreatic cancer, a statistic that carried only a 6% chance of happening. You're going to hear a lot of our and we, because while Ryan is the one with cancer, we have all been affected as a family. A bit of a disclaimer also, my personality is already naturally strong and I ask lots of questions. I've always enjoyed the medical field and I currently work on the burn unit at Iowa Healthcare doing process improvement. So while my background is in business, I understand medicine and the healthcare process. My style may not be your style, but I hope you can take some pieces from our story to help with your own experiences. Our story with pancreatic cancer began on March 12, 2021. Ryan at the time was 36 years old and our kids were 5 and 3. We were planning to leave the next day for a spring break trip and I literally had our vehicle packed and ready to go when Ryan got home from work. That week he had been suffering with what we thought was indigestion and we'd been trying several over-the-counter medications to manage things. When he got home that day, he looked miserable and I could tell he needed to go get checked out. I stayed home with our kids as I wasn't even sure if I could go with him to the ER since this was during the C word. I knew from an experience with my mom a few months prior, if you told the ER you were having chest pains, they immediately got you back to a room. And while we knew Ryan wasn't having a heart attack, his pain had progressed up his chest, so I told him to make sure to tell the staff so he could get to a room right away. Little did I know that piece of our journey was going to be pivotal. That piece of advice was going to be pivotal in our journey. Once back in a room, they drew blood. One of the tests, called a D-dimer, tests for blood clots. The only reason they drew this lab was because he said he was having chest pain, and it was the only test that came back abnormal. He messaged me at this point saying they were going to give him a CT scan. Sometime later, he called me. He was very heavily crying and there were several alarms going off in the background of his room. He told me they found several blood clots and a mass in the tail of his pancreas. We knew immediately it was pancreatic cancer. I had an instant pit in my stomach, but knew I couldn't break down in front of Ryan. I had to focus on calming him down and getting the monitor noise to settle, as I knew none of this stress could be good for him. At that time, no one besides close family knew what was happening. We were supposed to be enjoying our first big family trip, but instead we were sitting home with our kids, mentally preparing for Ryan to possibly die. I think we both aged 20 years that week. I don't remember a lot of specifics, but I remember being in our bedroom shortly after Ryan got home from the hospital and crying with him. He too was concerned about the future, and again, I knew this fight was going to be just as much mental as it was physical. I also knew Ryan had not faced much adversity in his life up to that point. I knew my resilience was going to be key to us both making it through this, even if I had to drag him along with me. I wasn't about to let my husband die when we were truly just beginning to hit our stride in life. While he needed to process and grieve, I knew I couldn't let Ryan dwell in the negatives or the what-ifs, and we talked about all he had to fight for. I wasn't getting a very convincing response, and I took up a boxer stance, jumped around a bit, threw a few punches, and said, "You have got to be ready to fight. You are literally in the fight of your life right now. I'm going to do everything I can to help you, but you have to do as much fighting as I am or this isn't going to work." It kind of became our mantra that I took care of the mental aspect of everything so Ryan could focus on the physical. About a year ago, I connected with a widow whose husband was even younger than Ryan, who shared that she and her husband coined the term the body and the brain. And boy, could that not be truer for our story. Today, I want to share a few things that I believe have helped make a difference in our journey. Number one, ask questions, and then ask more questions. This is not the time to be shy or worry about bothering someone. This is a time to advocate for your loved one. Think of anyone you know who has a bit of medical background that you could ask questions, or maybe you know several people. Make sure to write everything down as you think about it, so when you get to your clinic appointment, you'll be prepared when you speak with the doctor. If something doesn't make sense, ask questions for clarification. It's so important to understand how things work and what the plan is. What you ask a doctor may prompt them to think about other options or go about a plan a little bit differently. Remember, you know your loved one best. Surround yourself with people who can help answer questions and learn from others who have been on this journey. The more you can share and learn from others, the more you can arm yourself with information that might help your loved one either now or in the future. I'm constantly researching and learning as much as I can, and doing this also helps me cope. Some may call me a bit obsessive, but I just say I'm trying to be prepared for any scenario. Number two, don't take no for an answer and remain vigilant. I think most people's instinct is to trust a doctor and not question them out of respect for our medical professionals. However, I've learned that no one is going to look out for the best interest of your loved one more or better than you, the caregiver. Yes, doctors go through a lengthy education process, and therefore we assume they know everything. The thing with cancer is that while there are commonalities in things like symptoms and side effects, it really is so individualized to the patient. Don't be pressured by a doctor's opinions or statistics regarding pancreatic cancer, because no one knows how things are going to go until it's done. Ask questions, do research, know what medications you're on and what they do, including your chemo, and seek second, third, and fourth opinions if necessary. We learned there was great value in seeking all options, opinions, and treatments, including working with an integrative oncologist. Number three, resilience and positivity. Obviously, not every day is going to be a great day, but even people not battling cancer have bad days. The difference is you don't live in those bad days. You can allow yourself to feel crappy or be sad, but then you need to stop digging the hole of despair and climb out. This is where the role of caregiver is so important. As the caregiver, you need to make sure you are as mentally healthy as possible so you can help the person you're caring for. You can't help someone else be positive if you yourself are not thinking positively. I know that's easier said than done, so what are things to help? Of course, these suggestions may not be applicable for everyone, but I want to include as much as I can. Sleep. At the beginning of a cancer diagnosis, you might make an appointment with a primary doctor and ask for a sleep aid. Having enough sleep is critical, and your brain is going to be moving a mile a minute with all sorts of scenarios. Asking for a sleep aid will help you get a jump start so you aren't losing too much sleep. This will pay off in clarity and much needed energy as your battle begins. Food. Make sure you're eating food that will nourish your body. You'll likely not be hungry since you're so stressed, so the food you do eat needs to be able to keep you functioning and healthy. Snacking may be more beneficial in the early days or in times of great stress, so grabbing things quickly without having the burden of making large meals might be helpful. Gratitude journaling, for both you, if needed, and the person you're caring for. Ryan literally rolls his eyes every time I suggest getting out his gratitude journal, but I swear it's a mind reset for him, and it can help bring him out of a negative mindset when he's forced to think about things he's grateful for and what he has to look forward to. Find small positives in every day. As I'm sure you're all well aware, when you're in a living nightmare, it's hard to step back and look at things in a different light. This is an opportunity for you as the caregiver to think about anything that was better today than yesterday, or anything that is better today in this situation than a prior situation. When Ryan is really struggling physically, he has a hard time staying positive, which makes complete sense. So I asked questions to make comparisons and force him to think back to how he felt during other parts of his journey. Is what you're really going through today in this moment as bad as when he had an upper respiratory infection and then had chemo and ended up in the hospital? Or are these muscle spasms really as bad as when he had gastritis and couldn't eat for 2 weeks? Comparisons like this don't always help, but it definitely puts things into perspective and allows both of us to reflect on all we've been through and realize that things could be and sometimes have been so much worse than they are in that moment. I challenge you all, no matter what you're going through in life, to try to find one small positive thing about each day that was better than the day before. Over the last 4 years, God has watched over Ryan and our family. There have been so many times where things could have gone another way, but they didn't, and we are so incredibly grateful for the time that we've been given together. While things certainly haven't been easy, Ryan's age, physical responses, and help from our integrative oncologist have allowed for minimal side effects. Ryan was able to have chemotherapy and surgery initially and had about 14 months of no evidence of disease before recurrence made him stage 4 in November of 2022. He has since gone through all available chemotherapy options, radiation, a targeted treatment for his BRCA mutation, a clinical trial where we spent 3 months in New York City last summer, and most recently immunotherapy. We're happy to say that after all of this, he currently has no evidence of cancer in his body. Thank you all for being here today in honor of or memory of someone with pancreatic cancer. Keep bringing light, awareness, and hope to this disease and never give up.